I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and here today with me is Shane Williams, CEO, President, and Director at West Red Lake Gold Mines. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you.
Great to be here, Andrew.
Really good to be speaking with you. And I thought we could start on the easy side and just get a look at your background, how you came to West Red Lake.
Yeah. So look, my background is I've been building and operating mines for the last 20 years, so I've been doing that for a long time. I've been a lot of experience in starting old mines into new mines, basically. So that's a skill set that I've been doing. And I've worked with a company called Eldorado Gold for a long time. A lot of experience of running mines, operating mines. And then I worked with a company called Skeena Resources, who people know probably from Canada, who was a developer, big developer. So this opportunity came along, the opportunity to take an old mine and turn it back into a new mine. So that's what I like doing, and that's how I've kind of came about. I met, obviously, Frank Juicers, our main shareholder. Myself and Frank got together. We saw an opportunity in the Matson mine and then moved forward on that.
Really interesting. And we are going to get into everything that's going on with the company and the mine. Before we go into that, I thought we could set the stage with gold. So it's been, of course, a very interesting, exciting year for gold. We're in a bit of a lull right now with the price. But when you look at the gold market, where would you place us in the current cycle?
Yeah, it's interesting. People say we're in a bit of a lull, but gold is $3,300. And, it's funny, at the mine, it was a historical mine. I meet a couple of the old miners who used to work there, and to give some context, back then they were excited when gold went from $300 to $350. So where the gold is, I believe that we're in a bit of a lull. Gold has risen very, very fast, very quickly. If you look at back to when we bought the mine 2 years ago, it was around $1,900. That was only 2 years. We're now at $3,200. So it is in a bit of a consolidation, which is good for the gold. It needs to do that. But I see gold going over 4,000 over the next 6-8 months.
I think that sounds very reasonable. I think such an important reminder. People acclimate, I think, to the higher price very quickly, and then even the level we're at today becomes, low when it's really historically high.
It needs to start, yeah.
Yeah. So good to go into that. And let's take a look. There's so many factors, underlying factors that are supporting gold. And you mentioned 4,000 is where you can see it heading. What are the main drivers that you're looking at right now?
Yes, the main overall undertrend is central bank buying. There's a lot of central bank buying and going, and every month we hear about a new central bank buying and buying more gold. So I think that's set a base. I think people talk about the new gold. Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? I think that's set a base of gold that will continue for a long term. But also we're beginning to see, obviously over the last 5 years, the stock market has gone crazy. People are investing in the NVIDIAs of the world. So what we're seeing now is beginning to see money turning back into gold. And I think that'll be the next leg of gold. It's established a base. And now the plan is, as that new money, institutional money, begins to move into gold, that's where I think we'll get that next leg up in gold.
That makes a lot of sense. So are you seeing that in terms of the interest that you get in the company right now? You're starting to see that?
We're starting to see that. Up to now, we've seen a lot of the majors beginning to get, they're beginning to move, and we're seeing money come down. But I think this time it's more picky. It's looking for stories like ourselves, moving into production, developers at that stage. So that's where we're seeing people at the moment.
Well, and let's get into the story, because I think it's quite interesting. The Matson mine has a pretty interesting background. So there was a restart with a different company that failed in 2020. Then you picked up the asset in 2023. So talk to me about that process of going from an asset that was challenged and moving it forward.
Yeah, so when we bought the asset, and remember, gold was at $1,900 an ounce. And when they were in production, gold was at $1,600 an ounce. So, it's a different context. And obviously, Frank, who was part of the deal doing, he's a great believer in timing. He kind of got timing correctly, as we see now. But at the time, gold, nobody wanted gold. Nobody liked the project. We're interested in gold. So we took the Matson project. We bought it very cheaply. We bought it for like $6 million cash. A lot of value there. And then over the last 18 months, we've been doing a lot of technical work, drilling, underground development, understanding the ore body, understanding geology, buying some equipment, hiring people. And that has allowed us to move forward in this speed. In reality, it's a fast restart, really, from a mining project. Yeah.
It really is because typically you hear about the ramp up process, mining process, everything moves so slowly. So it is quite impressive. So the official restart was this past May, continuing the ramp up into the second half of the year. Maybe talk about what that's going to look like and how the company will, I guess, go about avoiding whatever the mistakes of the past were.
Yeah. So we've taken a very structured approach and a very conservative approach. We had a mine, we had an operation, we could have gone straight into production. But again, we wanted to learn the lessons of what happened before. So we've done the drilling, we've done the understanding of the ore body. We did our reconciliation of our bulk sample, if people remember. So we reconciled what we mined versus the resource we had. So that kind of set us up for that we've kind of got the formula right in effect. And that gave us a base to start the project and move into production. So now we're up and producing. We've produced about 6,000 ounces of gold today. The plan is to ramp up for the rest of the year to get to that 25,000 ounces this year, and then full year production next year, which is that 60 to 65,000 ounces.
And, I've noticed that the company places a lot of emphasis on investor education, doing, explainers online, things like that. And it makes total sense given the history in the past and your background. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I'd love to see more of that from other companies.
Yeah, look, this is something that's actually personally I'd like to do because, this conference is an example. I go to lots of conferences. The age profile of the conference is getting older and older. Very few young people here. Also, we all know gold. We're all talking about gold. We're all talking about air. We need to get new investors into the business. And mining is complicated, and you need to some people are overawed about it. So we're trying to break down the stages of the process so people can kind of get an understanding. So it is partly we want to do that education. Not really for the mining of Matson, but more to get new investors interested, get them, because unless you've been in mining, it's complicated. It's hard to understand. There's lots of processes, and it's nice to give people, and we have Gwen now with us, and Gwen's background is not technical, so she can break down the simplicity of the process.
Yeah, I always love listening to her talk. I feel she explains things really well. So that makes a lot of sense. I love that you're doing that. So we've talked about what's going on at Madsen, but you had news this week, exciting news this week, a PEA for the Rowan Project. So maybe tell me the highlights. This is kind of brand new news.
Yeah, it is. We always had the Rowan property. Actually, Rowan was the first property we had. But when we got Madsen, we wanted to focus on Madsen. So now that Madsen is, we say not there fully, but on the ramp up, we then wanted to show investors, well, not only Madsen, we have growth. So we did a PEA study on the Rowan property. And that's set up really as a feed to Madsen. Because we have Madsen, we have the mill, the facilities. The concept is this hub and spoke model in Red Lake, where we have these smaller deposits bringing material into Madsen. So the PEA of Rowan, about 35,000 ounces a year of production. It's high grade, 10 grams, going down to 8 grams. So it's a very high grade. The material would come into Madsen to allow Madsen to grow as a project. MPV of around just over 100 million.
Really good to go over that. And any other company, you've got a lot going on. You've already spoken about a lot that's coming up. Any other things in the pipeline that you want investors to know about?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is that, today, I think it's important that investors understand the quality of the teams. Like I said, the people who built the big mines, the big companies over the last 10, 15 years, they're not going to be there for the next 10 or 15 years. So it's about getting a new team. So we've created a very young team, new team, lots of experience. And as we go forward, we're going to use that to grow the company. So the objective is to get to a mid-tier producer over the next 4 to 5 years. So that's our concept. Let's get Madsen, let's build a consolidation around Madsen, and then use that as a platform for growth.
That's a great idea. But it's tough though, because, when you come to these conferences like the Rural Symposium, they always have the mining legends, and it's often the older people. But so tell me a little bit more about building new teams, bringing new people in.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, those, I won't say that older generation, but that experienced generation, they've had a lot of success. And a lot of it is because they were able to bring new people around them and do that. So I see myself as starting to do that. I've managed to attract good people. there is a lot of people out there who are in 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 existing companies who, if you can bring them to a new company, you can unleash them, give them the opportunity to grow. And that's worked so far for us. And that gives the ability to grow a new company and build another platform.
Really interesting. And I love going into everything that's happening with the company. If we look at the broader gold sector, any other trends that you would highlight right now that you're seeing either in the market, among the companies, anything you're noticing?
Yeah, I'm noticing there is some M&A beginning to happen in the gold industry. And back to the last big bull run in 10 and 11, there was a lot of M&A done for the sake of M&A, not very value accretive M&A, and investors punished the gold market or the miners for that. I've seen now, as we're starting to get M&A, it's much more strategic. The companies coming together or buying each other, it's very structured, it's very strategic, and you can understand the reason why. So that's been very more important. It's more discerning than there was the last time. Now, who knows where we get to, but at the moment so far there've been good mergers, good acquisition.
Yeah, so far they've learned the lessons of the
I
past.
think so. So far they've learned their lessons, and also the money coming in, are looking for stories like West Red Lake, producers going into producers. I'm not sure the money will be as the last bull run. Money, anybody who had a project was getting money. It was easy to get. This time I think money is coming in. It's much more discerning. So they're looking for good stories. They're looking for growth. They're looking for production, near-term production, which West Red Lake does very well.
One more point on what people are looking for right now. I think, like, we're talking about bringing new people into the sector, and of course it's really important. I think when new investors come, a lot of the time they want to go to physical gold or they want to go to an ETF, and it's just a little bit harder to go to the companies, right? Because you've got to do all your research and you have to know. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, and that's something I try with new investors. I think that from people moving from the physical into the companies, it's very important that the first company you go into, you understand very well, because if you have one bad experience, you won't go into it anymore. So that's important as the education part and getting that understanding, bringing people along. And it takes some time, but I think it's important that people look for that right company. And management teams is very important. Have a good management team with a good track record. That's something that I think is very important with the team, because that's a good team, no matter what project they get, they will do successfully.
Okay, well, this has been really informative. I'll let you get back out onto the show floor. I know it's such a busy event, but any final thoughts you would leave investors with?
Yeah, I would like the investors to get that, this project coming back. Like I said, 2 years ago, the company didn't exist. A year ago, we were here, we were a developer, and a year later, we're in production. So that's a fast track for a thing. So I'm hoping that investors get that we mean business, we're ready to grow, and next year we come back, I plan to be much, much bigger than we are today. So that's a good growth trajectory for the company.
Well, we'll hold you to that. We'll see where you're at next year. That'll be exciting. But thank you so much for coming on to talk right now. This is great.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Of course. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and this is Shane Williams with West Red Lake Gold.